Welcome. Smiley picture of me there. So when I say the word hormones, is this what you think of? Do people think like this? Can you relate to any of these? Feeling bloated, feeling in pain, like acne, skin flare-ups, moods, PMS, headaches, feeling emotional upset, and cramps. Is that what you think about when you think hormones? We're going to talk about it today. So, welcome. I am Pam. For those who obviously you all do know me because you're signed up here to my program, but I always give a wee bit of background on me. I've been working in the fitness industry for 22 years now. Have worked abroad, returned to study my degree in nutrition, which then I was planning on moving abroad again, and then I met Andy, and he kept me here against my will to have these three crazy kids. I'm only kidding, he didn't, just in case anyone gets worried there. And as a result of having kids and just naturally progressing through the years, I found things difficult with regards to physical, physiological, and psychological. And I feel that the kind of support we get on these type of things can be quite minimal. So I really want to help women feel heard and supported and help guide them through major life changes like the menopause. I'm currently studying to become a neurogetics transformational life coach. I'm always studying something, but this is my biggie. This is my 6-month course, and I've got my first peer coaching group, this peer coaching session this week. So I'm absolutely petrified, but it'll all be good. It'll be good. So what are we going to cover today? We are going to cover what hormones are and what they do. We're going to talk about sex hormones. We're going to talk about insulin. We're talking about stress hormones and hunger and fullness hormones. What happens when they are imbalanced? And I put that in inverted commas for a reason. Some of you may know why, and if you don't, you'll find out soon. And how can we support your hormones as well? Okay, so thanks very much for joining me, whether you're live or you're on the recording. Get yourself nice and comfortable with your refreshments, your pen and your paper. If we were in person, I would be locating your fire exits and telling you where your nearest bathroom is, but you can do that safely in your own home. So please remember, again, I always say this, I am not Dr. Pam, I'm not medically trained, so I can't diagnose any conditions or advise if you are currently on any hormone medication likes of HRT. The point of the webinar is to bring your awareness to how our hormones work together, what impact one has on the other one, and to give you ideas on how to naturally support that endocrine or the hormonal system, okay? So what happens to our hormones? What the hell is happening? From the age of 35, our hormones start to change. These changes are so gradual that they can go unnoticed until we're well into our 40s. Some changes with regards to maybe menstrual cycle. That's one of the most common things that people will feel. Oh, I'm 38, yeah, my periods kind of changed now. I'm really heavy flow at the start, or it lasts a bit longer, or it's a bit more irregular. Things like that we can go and notice, or you've got kind of more PMS symptoms. Other things, if you've not got a menstrual cycle at that stage, other things can just be maybe skin breakouts, energy levels, the sleeping difficulties, things like that can all go unnoticed because we say, oh, it's just what I'm going through at the moment. It could be a sign that hormones are changing. And people say to me, oh, well, I tick all these boxes that you've said, Pam, does that mean I'm in perimenopause? And it's like, well, it could be, you couldn't be. It's just that the main thing is that you're noticing that there's things that are actually changing here. So whatever it is, then we can try to address that. And if it is hormones, then that's going to be addressed with the steps that you're taking, hopefully. So our hormones work synergistically. So if one is up, or if it's upregulated, or it's downregulated, the rest are affected too. And this will come a bit more to light as we're going through. Our hormones are always adjusting, so the term hormone balance doesn't really make sense. Like, let's talk about stress hormone. Let's talk about cortisol very briefly. Cortisol is stress hormone. People say, oh, it's the worst hormone in the world, but actually we need it. That's the hormone that wakens us up in the morning. So if we didn't have cortisol, then we wouldn't naturally wake up in the morning. You know those mornings, anyone still get them where you get to just kind of awake to the sounds of the birds or something like that? But our hormones naturally increase and decrease at particular times of the day. They increase and decrease at particular times of the month if you've got a cycle. So they're always adjusting. So it doesn't really make, they're not always at a certain level. They're always fluctuating. So balancing them doesn't really make sense. What we want to think about is supporting the glands that produce the hormones, so helping them so that they are upregulating and downregulating the best to their ability. Okay. So as a result of drastic or prolonged changes in hormones, here we go. These are some of the things we can feel. And if you can like tick off how many of these that you can relate to: sleeping difficulties, fatigue, mood swings, brain fog, irritability, anxiety, difficulty losing weight or putting weight on, irregular periods, night sweats, hot flushes, painful periods, low libido, digestive issues, lack of motivation, increased stress, stiff joints, itchy skin. So what did I name there? I named 18, and lots more would probably take that up to like 50 or something like that. So if you can relate to any of those, it can be due to prolonged changes in hormones. We often disregard a lot of these things. Hold on, I've got somebody coming in. There we go. We often disregard these things because we're just busy. Oh, so I'm tired because I'm busy. Oh, I'm just I'm in a mood because I've not had anything to eat, or I'm hangry, or yeah, I'm a low libido. I can't be bothered just because I'm so tired. We can often disregard these just because we're busy or we're at that stage. But there are things that we can do to help before they become more chronic. Early intervention can be the most helpful. And it's critical to our well-being that we try to sort these things out. So imagine, say you are, so there we go, I'm 41. So if I, for example, let's go for hot flushes. If I experience hot flushes now when I'm 41, I'm like, well, how is this going to be in 5 years' time when I'm 46? Or how is it going to be when I'm 52 or when I'm into my 60s? It's not going to improve, and I've still got a long life to live. I mean, I would hope maybe halfway through my life. I'm going to live to 150, of course. So I've got a long way to live. So if I'm having issues with things now, then where is it going to be in 5 years' time? Is it going to be worse? Is it going to be better? And I'm going to make sure that I'm making that better. Yeah. Oh, I can see the chat. Oh, you're all right, June. Welcome in, welcome in. I can see the chat. Oh, that must have changed. So yeah, sorting all these things out are critical for our well-being. It's very worth noting though that aging is a completely natural process. And part of that involves our body adapting to go along with these changes. Things like, go with my 99-year-old neighbour. Her energy intake is much less than mine, or much less than yours, because of her age and because she basically doesn't move anywhere. So whereas because we are quite active and we're moving, we have a higher metabolism. So as we age, our metabolism naturally declines because we don't move around as much. Yeah. So aging is a natural process. I know we do try to fight the aging. We try to fight it, and there's a whole industry to fight aging. I can give you some of the best anti-aging things ever to do. It's hydrate. It's all our foundations. They are naturally anti-aging. Our lifestyle choices have the biggest impact on the aging process. They have the biggest impact. So spend all the money you like on your special creams. Spend all the money you like on various injections and whatnot. Lifestyle choices have the biggest impact on our aging body. So what are hormones? We talk about the endocrine system. So this is the entire collection of glands in the body that produce and that release hormones. Together, these glands and the hormones they produce influence almost every cell, organ, and function in the body. So everything we do is controlled, or there is an input from hormones. Every single thing that we do, okay? And quite often it can be said that things like nutrition wise, foods that you take in can either be a stimulatory effect on your body, or they can be an inhibitory effect on your body. So things that are going to get the body stimulated and things that are going to slow the body down and make it sluggish. And you could probably think about things, I don't have to go through a huge list there, you could probably think about things yourself. So these have everything we eat and that we drink has a knock-on effect to our hormones. Hormones themselves are chemical messengers that are released on these glands, and they have to carry out a specific response in another gland, tissue, or organ in the body. Like insulin is released from the pancreas, and the function of that insulin is to clear blood sugar levels. Simple. Well, I say simple. It's simple. So it has a function. That's the response of insulin, yeah? So they cause, and I said, they cause a stimulating or an inhibitory response. And these are just pictures of where they are. So we've got your, on the left-hand side, if it's still left on yours, the pituitary gland, the thyroid gland, the thymus gland, we only have that up to about teenagers, and then your pancreas. These are important glands in the body that produce hormones, okay? Then you've got your hypothalamus, your pineal gland, the adrenal glands, and your ovaries. These produce lots of important hormones in the body. So just to give you an idea of where they are, okay? What causes changes? What causes changes to our hormones? Apart from aging, lots of you have seen this here from me before. Causes of hormonal imbalance. And you know I don't like the word imbalance, but sometimes we still need to go with it. But you get what I mean. It's causing disruption, yeah? So let's go up to the purple, straight up. So environmental hormone mimics, okay? Things like pesticides, plastics, petrochemicals, sorry, they cause glandular dysfunction. Lots of these are things like your cleaning fluids, your body creams, shampoos, conditioners, all these type of things. Microwaving in a plastic Tupperware dish, things like that, that can cause glandular dysfunction. What happens here is they mimic hormones. So they mimic estrogen, say. So when your estrogen hormone comes along in your body, there's a little receptor site, and it's like a wee jigsaw piece. So the hormone fits into the jigsaw piece, that fits into the receptor, and it does what it's supposed to do. So when you get these hormone mimickers coming along, they look the same, so they fit in, but they don't produce that hormonal effect. So then that hormone doesn't get to do its job, and it just circulates around the body, not doing what it's supposed to do. And then we get a build-up of that hormone, okay? If we go downwards to the kind of orangey yellow, we talk about synthetic hormones. So like HRT, contraceptive pill, intrauterine devices, things like that, they cause changes in our hormonal glands to either inhibit, like contraceptive pill, inhibit that cycle that's controlled with your progesterone hormone. HRT, it then produces, it's like a replacement, your hormone replacement therapy. So the hormone is then replaced. And then things like the IUDs, again, they cause that inhibitory effect of your menstrual cycle. So those are the two ones, and also back down, sorry, to the orange, the childbirth one. And anyone who's had children completely get this. Your hormones are flipping mental, man. And they never change back. Childbirth, added stress, which then causes adrenal fatigue. Your adrenals sit on top of your kidneys and they produce your stress hormones, and that causes glandular dysfunction. So the purple one with the environmental hormone mimickers, the childbirth, which is the orange, kind of dark orange or red, let's say, and then the synthetic ones. Those are the ones that we're not going to go too much into, because childbirth, that doesn't affect everybody, and you might not be at that stage at the moment anyway. The synthetic hormones, we're not going to go too in depth with that again, because that's a more medical kind of base, but know that these things do have an impact on your hormones. And then the environmental, I'm hoping to add this in a wee bit further down the line. So I know some of you are interested in this, and I will do a little chat. I'll maybe make it a wee Friday check-in kind of a wee bit further down the line. But let's talk about the blue one, the green one, and the yellow one. So let's go over to refined sugars. So causes of hormonal balance. Refined sugars, that's all of your the like sweeties, let's talk about Halloween, sweeties, millions and millions and millions of sweeties in the house, refined sugars, they will cause insulin resistance. So that means that the cells in the body that are supposed to be taking that blood sugar up, because they've been told to buy the insulin, that will be resistant to insulin. Okay. And that is the first stage of type 2 diabetes. So when you have a very high sugar diet, you produce so much insulin that your cells start to become resistant to it, and then it doesn't do the job. So yeah, you've got all this circulating blood sugar, all the circulating insulin, and it's not doing its job. What that causes is appetite stimulation. So you think, because your blood sugar levels aren't changing, you think you're hungry, so you'll eat more food, which then causes weight gain. Okay. Again, with that insulin resistance, appetite stimulation, you get sugar cravings, which again, you can have the emotional overeating. I posted a couple of TED Talks about cravings and willpower in our Better Body Balance group. So have a wee check of them if you've not managed yet. Again, the emotional overeating and the weight gain. Yeah. And then you've got the insulin resistance causes issues with the pancreas. That's the glands that then, or the what's it called? Like your liver, your kidney. It's a oh my god, my brain. Talk about bloody brain fog. Oh my god. It's the organ that has the pancreas then produces your insulin. So then you have an imbalance there, which causes your thyroid production to reduce. We're doing a full session on thyroid in the next block. I've not added thyroid into this one. And that is glandular dysfunction. So when you have changes in your thyroid gland, that affects your thyroid hormones, which has a knock-on effect mainly to your energy levels. So you can be really low in energy. Yeah. Other cause of hormonal balance, let's go down to excessive stress. And this is another major one, okay? Excessive stress. And I'm not talking about really stressful situations all the time. You might not come across, I just picture the saber-toothed tiger. You might not come across stressful situations, but because of the lives we lead, the worry, the going here, there, and everywhere, all that type of thing, that's excessive stress in your body. So what that does is it affects your sleep. That affects your circadian rhythm, and that disrupts the pineal gland, which then produces melatonin, which is the hormone for sleep. Okay, so stress changes your sleep pattern, which causes that disruption to your glands. Yeah. And that sleep pattern, and I spoke about this with one of my one-to-one clients recently about if she could nail the sleep, Melanie, it wasn't you. If you could get the sleep under control, lots of other things will fall into place much more. Yeah. It does apply to you, Melanie, but I wasn't specifically talking about you. And then we go to excessive stress, the nervous system imbalance. So what happens is you're in fight or flight mode a lot of the time, as opposed to being in that R&R mode, that rest and restore mode. When you've got that nervous system imbalance, you have increased cortisol, increased stress hormone production. And then that causes the adrenal gland, because that's what produces cortisol, to become in overdrive, and it gets fatigued. Burnout, crash, yeah, crash and burn. With that elevated cortisol, it also has an effect on that thyroid function, which again is fatigue. That's your metabolic stimuli. So that causes a difficulty in weight loss, or it can cause weight gain, disruption in that gland overall. So you're looking at stress, yeah, the effect that has on the different glands. Then we'll go up to poor diet. So poor diet, let's go to imbalanced microbiome. Now the microbiome is all of that bacteria in your gut. We'll do a full session on this as well. When we have that imbalanced gut, it causes food cravings, and it causes reduced serotonin. Serotonin are happy hormones that are produced in the gut. So a lot of hormones produced in the gut. When your gut's not in a good place, you've not got all that good bacteria, then your mood is affected by that, because you're not producing those hormones that make you feel good. Yeah. Poor diet, if you're affected by constipation, and diet-wise, this, if you're affected by constipation, this is the number one thing. If you take one thing away from this webinar tonight, if you don't poo once a day, get that going. Yeah, that is going to make a huge difference. That's going to make a massive difference to everything: energy, moods, sleep, cravings. That's going to make a huge impact. So when our diet is poor, generally we're affected by constipation, or we don't poo once a day. That has an effect on our liver. Our liver is one of your major detox pathways. Never mind your detox teas and whatnot. A detox pathway in your body, your liver, is one of the most important ones, okay? Then when you have that poor liver function, your liver's responsible for breaking down all those used up hormones. So when your estrogen has done its job, your liver then packages it up and sends it out through your bowel habits. When that doesn't happen, because you're not doing that once a day, that all gets reabsorbed into the body and slows the body down, okay? So we don't get the breakdown of the repackaged up hormones, all right? Higher level of the hormones are absorbed, and that will cause disruption in your glands, okay? So huge, huge, huge. Refined sugars, excessive stress, and poor diet. 3 huge things that we can do to improve the balance of our hormones. Childbirth, a lot of us are maybe past that point at the moment, but if you're not, then there are certain things that you can do to help that as well. If you are on hormonal medication, like your HRT, your contraceptive pill, that will be keeping certain hormones in balance. It will be keeping certain hormones at bay. It will be upregulating other hormones. And then your environmental hormone mimickers. So I will do that further down the line. So these are all causes of hormonal imbalance. So you see, glandular disruption is that gland that produces the hormones that's disrupted. I've put reduced serotonin as well because that comes from a gland, yeah? And the adrenal fatigue, because the adrenal glands are glands as well. So some things we can do. Some of these things are within our control, yeah? And what can you control? We can control your diet and refined sugars. If you're like, oh no, but I get sugar cravings, oh, I've got a really high this diet, a really high that diet. You can change things like that. You can change the refined sugars. You can increase your fiber, increase your water, increase your movement to help that constipation as well, okay? Excessive or unnecessary stress. Thinking of ways to bring your nervous system into that rest and restore mode, R&R mode, as opposed to fight and flight mode all the time. And that can be things like getting out for a walk in an absolutely pouring day like today, or having a little bit of relaxation time before bed, putting in a wee, I done at the end of my Trigger Point Pilates class this morning, I done just a little 5-minute meditation, and the girls that were there were like, oh my God, I feel amazing after that. I really, really enjoyed that. I really needed that today. 5 minutes of mindfulness or something like that to bring the unnecessary stress. We do a full session on stress, and remember these things, it's not waiting till you're stressed to do these things. It's putting these things in place regularly to prevent the stress from happening in the first place, okay? Sleep and your recovery. We spoke a bit about recovery last week with the recovery workouts. And sleep is very important. That's one of the best things you'll do to support your glands. Exercise and movement with that NEAT, that non-exercise activity thermogenesis. I know lots of you after week 1 were wanting to focus on that. So exercise and movement, because that has such a positive impact on helping you sleep, reducing your stress. And when you start exercising, it's almost like you don't want to eat a lot of rubbish. You just get a sense of wanting to eat better as well. So the knock-on impact of these things, it's not that one thing. When you start to exercise or move your body more, you're going to do different things as a result of that as well, okay? Unnecessary medications, the likes of just popping a couple of paracetamol or ibuprofen, because your liver has to detoxify all that. So when we're taking things like that unnecessarily, your liver's having to work overtime when it's probably having to work overtime anyway with regards to the hormones that they're trying to repackage up as well. So avoiding popping a couple of pills for a headache, get massage balls, lie on your foam roller, do a little bit of breath work, have a 20-minute nap, something like that, as opposed to just automatically popping medications, okay? And then your environmental hormone mimickers, things like heating up your food as opposed to in a plastic bowl and on a plate, looking for your the sort of body creams and shower gels and all that you use, the cleaning products that you use, looking for the chemicals in there. We want to stay away from them. You can have a Google of the what is it called? The it's an app. I was talking to somebody the other day about it. I'll come back to you on that. I'll put it in the group. What is it? The Dirty app, is it? I can't remember. If I told anyone about that before, if I have, just pop it in the chat for me. Do you need medical help with regards to the change in hormone balance? If you're still having a period, hormonal tests may not show up too much. So if you go to your GP and say, I think I'm in perimenopause, and they do tests, the thing is they have to do that test at the same point in your cycle, probably for a good 6 months, to see where your hormones are. Is there a reduction? Is there an increase in things? So they're probably not going to do that. Yeah. The main thing is that with regards to going to your GP, they're going to ask you to keep a note of symptoms and track your cycle. I think we spoke about this briefly. Was it last week? No, I think we briefly spoke about it last week. But if you start keeping a note of any symptoms and stuff you feel and tracking your cycle, you go to the GP, they say, oh, we need you to track your period for 3 months. Oh, well, you've already got it. So you can start to then move forward, as opposed to having to wait 3 months before you're moving forwards again. Hormonal tests might not show about your estrogen levels, progesterone levels and stuff like that. But if you go handed with a lot of these symptoms, the NICE guidelines it recommends that perimenopause is diagnosed with regards to symptoms as opposed to tests. So that's one of the things that your GP should be aware of, that it should be diagnosed with regards to all these symptoms that I'm going through, as opposed to what your blood tests are showing up, okay? So what the GP is probably one of the first things that the GP will ask you to do, is to track your cycle. Is Think Dirty. Thank you, Annette. Thank you, Annette. I knew it was something like that. Think Dirty app. Download that, it's free. Scan your shampoo, your conditioner, your clothes conditioner, your whatever it is, and it'll give it a rating. Is it 0 to 5? I can't remember, I've not used it for so long. 0 to 5, and it'll tell you how chemical based it is. It's very interesting. Let's get into the hormones now. So estrogen. This is a female sex hormone that gives us our female characteristics, like our boobs and stuff like that, our curves and stuff. It has over 400 functions in the body. 400 functions in the body. It helps to balance your moods. It helps your energy levels. It helps control your body weight. It's got healthy heart properties. It plays a role in your bone and your heart health and your soft tissue function. That's like your ligaments and tendons and stuff. It's mainly produced in the ovaries, but also produced by the fat cells in the adrenal gland. It declines naturally as we age, and that results in PMS. So if all of a sudden you start to get symptoms of PMS, then it could be as a result of change or declining estrogen, yeah? Irregular or heavier periods, infertility, low libido, mood swings, that kind of feeling of just unattractive and unsexy, vaginal dryness, hot flushes, brain fog, anxiety, and memory loss. So when you start to see these type of things happening, that's because that's one of the functions of estrogen. 400 functions. So think about all those things. That's why when you see a list of hormonal symptoms for perimenopause or menopause, it's so vast because it has so many functions in the body, okay? And that's why everyone's so different as well. Lots of these symptoms cause stress. So we want to try to minimize our stress, but having these symptoms in the first place causes stress. Sex hormone production is suppressed when stress hormones are elevated. So when you're stressed, your estrogen, your progesterone, and your testosterone, that's our sex hormones, the production of them is reduced because you're in a stressful situation. Your body doesn't determine if you're getting chased by a saber-tooth tiger or you're just stressed because you've got a million kids at your door wanting Halloween treats. It doesn't differentiate between that. Your body just knows it's stressed. So it signals, oh, it's not a good place to be releasing an egg and fertilizing an egg and implanting an egg, and because that's how your body works with regards to the sex hormones. So they're going to decrease the production of them so that you're not going to be producing a baby, basically. Estrogen dominance is one of these things that can occur. What estrogen dominance is you've got estrogen and progesterone, and they work very closely together in harmony, yeah? So when your estrogen is higher, your progesterone is lower. When your progesterone is higher, your estrogen is lower. So what happens is when progesterone is really low, your estrogen stays high and it becomes the more dominant hormone. So estrogen dominance causes issues like fibroids, endometriosis, breast cancer, heavy periods, breast tenderness, those PMS symptoms, and cysts. So when you come to perimenopause and you're seeing changes in estrogen or feeling changes in estrogen, there's two ways that can be. That can be just that estrogen is lowering overall, or it could be that you're in that estrogen dominance. So with regards to your symptoms, you can tell what one is what. So if it's overall estrogen that's declining, you could do something like HRT to replace that estrogen. But if it's more something like the estrogen progesterone balance, you can do things to try to increase that progesterone, okay? Which is what we're talking about now. So progesterone is a female sex hormone that's produced to prepare the body for pregnancy. It regulates your menstrual cycle. It builds strong bones, plays a role in your heart and your breast health, promotes sleep, and it works in sync with your estrogen. Produced in the ovaries. Did I say that already? No, I didn't. Produced in the ovaries and the adrenal gland and the placenta throughout pregnancy. Stress affects its production. Our body has to decide whether to make sex hormones or stress hormones. They come from the same place. Progesterone and cortisol have the same sort of mother hormone. So it decides, does it produce sex hormones or does it produce stress hormones? So if you're constantly on the go all the time, it's going to say, oh no, we need more stress hormones. So it's going to keep producing that. So then progesterone gets reduced, yeah? When it's stressed, the body doesn't want to go through with the fertilization implantation. So that's why it down-regulates progesterone, because that has a lot to do with that function in the body. Progesterone's got other things as well, but it just shows that the body, this stress overtakes everything. Low levels of progesterone can cause an irregular cycle, miscarriage, infertility, PMS, irritability, insomnia, anxiety, heavy, that should be with a Y, and painful periods, and spotting in between periods as well. Low production can occur if your thyroid function is low, you've got polycystic ovary syndrome, you're during perimenopause, it could be genetic, deficiencies in magnesium, zinc, vitamin C, vitamin A, so anyone who is trying to conceive would be advised to take them, or a general low nutrient intake. So if you don't eat fresh fruits and vegetables, or fruits and vegetables, whether fresh, frozen or canned, if you've got a low nutrient intake, that's going to affect your progesterone. Also, if you've got a low overall calorie intake, that's going to have an effect on progesterone. And a high sugar intake, because the high sugar intake increases the cortisol intake, which then suppresses the progesterone. Oh, what's it like? Progesterone also promotes the relaxation center in the brain to promote sleep, enhance your mood, and reduce anxiety. Okay, so estrogen and progesterone work very closely together. If you get blood tests, probably private blood tests, you would be able to see the levels of them. But generally trying to think of things to boost the estrogen and boost that progesterone, okay? Testosterone is another sex hormone, and people think that it's only men that need that, but no, women need testosterone as well. It's produced in the ovaries, the adrenal glands, and in the fat cells in the body. Testosterone helps with your moods, helps with weight loss, gives you that sense of motivation confidence and self-esteem. When you feel good, that's your testosterone doing that for you. The best way to naturally increase the testosterone is to do weight training. That's going to naturally increase your testosterone. It's very difficult, and I know one of the girls had mentioned this today in one of the posts. NHS, it's not freely available on the NHS to get your testosterone levels, testosterone supplementation. It can be quite difficult to get it, but it's one of those things. It's like the missing piece. So if you think about your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, HRT is generally estrogen and progesterone. Why is it not testosterone as well? Because that has such an impact on us. Like, I just don't feel like myself, all that type of thing. That's a lot to do with the testosterone. Weight training is going to help with that as well. Okay, so those are your 3 sex hormones. Let's now talk about cortisol. So this is the stress hormone in the body. It's produced in the adrenal glands. They sit just above the kidneys. Its released impacts the function of all other hormones. So when cortisol is up there, all your other hormones are downregulated, because all your body's thinking about doing is, it's the stress. It's like that fight or flight mode. It has to be on high alert. So all your other hormones, your sleep hormones, your sex hormones, your hunger hormones, they're all suppressed. Yeah. We need cortisol, but when it remains elevated, it causes more disturbances like brain fog, fatigue, mood swings, PMS, stubborn belly fat, food cravings, I was going to say wood cravings there, infertility, anxiety, and feelings of that tired but wired, like you're dying to go to your bed because you're physically exhausted, but your brain is just in overdrive. Yeah, that has a lot to do with cortisol. When the body is under stress, it produces stress hormones. Adrenaline is another stress hormone, but that's almost like a short fix. Yeah, so you'll have adrenaline to do something and then it'll disappear, whereas cortisol lingers around. It stays there in a kind of elevated state. So it's like, oh, I'll just hang about here just in case, so that it's ready to just pounce whenever you need it. The body and the brain don't distinguish between an argument or road rage, like an argument with somebody, or a wee bit road rage, or running for fear of your life. Yeah, it doesn't distinguish between it. It just produces the cortisol to deal with the situation. So that elevated cortisol is going to have an impact on everything. On the go lifestyles we lead contribute to elevated and prolonged cortisol, which can be the cause of most issues within the body. Yes, there are stresses in our life that we have no control over. How we respond to those stressors, we do have control over. And that's what we want to focus on. The stress response is your first response to blow it all up and go off your head. Stress response, how you respond, you control that. You can't always control the stress that comes into your life, but you can control your response, and you can have that on the go thing constantly. We can change that. Yeah, we can change that. In response to stress, your blood sugars are elevated because it needs to be circulating, because if your body's going to go into fight or flight modes, it has to have that sugar as energy. Yeah, so it's circulating around the body, but when it's not used, it's like, oh, I'm not getting used, so let's just store it. It gets stored as body fat, and I tell you what we'll do, we'll keep it around the liver, because the liver is what mobilizes that. The liver's what's going to break down that fat to use as energy. So it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to keep that fat just round about my midsection here, so that when I'm stressed again, yeah, that's how stress affects weight gain or weight loss. Energy is conserved when you're highly stressed for survival mode. Exercise is a stress and it elevates the cortisol. So finding balance in your exercise regime is important. So things like, next week, I've got a box with weights workout next week, right? Which is a very good stress buster. One of the best stress busting classes that I do. Lots of other classes are stress busting as well. Just using this as an example, because it's very obvious how stress releasing it is. So if you had a stressful day at work, if you're like up to here with this and you're like, right, I just need to get my class, your cortisol levels, they're up here, they're up. When you do your class, they're going to elevate more. So in fact, what you want to do is try to reduce them in the first place. So by saying, do you know what, I'm not going to go to boxing weights, I'm going to go to trigger point Pilates instead. And that's going to reduce. Whereas if you're here, it's going to elevate. And with that exercise session, it's going to bring it back down to here. But it's not bringing it down here. And that's where being in tune with your body and saying, do you know what, instead of that workout, I am feeling a bit, all over the place. I'm going to do something more restorative for myself today. And that's where you make that decision to change your workouts. Yeah. So that's what you call balance in your exercise regime and being intuitive to what's going on in your life as well. So if it's a very stressful day, exercise, yes, but let's tone that intensity down, because exercise is going to elevate that cortisol even more. And it'll bring it back down to probably where it was. And it's temperamental. Whereas change to do the trigger point Pilates or fitness Pilates or mobility or something is going to bring it right down, and that's going to be much more longer lasting. Yeah, that'll last you to the next day that you're in work. So really think about it when you're doing your workouts. Insulin, here we go. Increased cortisol. You can see where I'm going with this cortisol. It looks like a bad guy, doesn't it? Increased cortisol equals an increase in your blood glucose. That increases how much insulin is secreted, because insulin clears or controls your blood sugar levels. Prolonged elevated insulin, i.e. stress, increases fat storage. And then that's a higher risk for things like type 2 diabetes and heart issues as well. So the stress causes the blood sugar increases, which cause that impact onto your health. Yeah. High insulin, when it's not getting taken up and used, causes mood swings, poor sleep, low energy, energy slumps, and food cravings. So if you slump halfway through the morning or you slump in the afternoon, it's possibly because of stress, or it could be because of the blood sugars. Yeah. So just be aware of that. Exercise reduces your risk of type 2 diabetes because it increases your cell's sensitivity to insulin. So when your cells at our age, at mid 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, when your cells are starting to become resistant to insulin, actually, when you exercise, it makes it more sensitive to insulin. So that's why another reason you want to increase your exercise to reduce your likelihood of type 2 diabetes. Okay. Over a prolonged period, cell receptors become resistant to the effects of insulin, making it higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes, which I've already said there. All right. I am just going to, bear with me a second, because, oops, I can hear everybody just coming home and I've not closed my door, just in case there's any screaming and shouting. Hold on. Yeah, I've come back in. I mean, the picture of those three cherubs, you wouldn't think they'd be screaming and shouting at each other, but believe me, they do. Okay, let's talk about satiety hormones. Satiety is a feeling of fullness, and this is called ghrelin and leptin. So leptin is the hormone that is produced when your body is full, when you're feeling full from your food, and that's produced by the body's fat stores and in the small intestine. Okay, it stops you feeling hungry, and it's been shown that sleep increases your leptin levels. All right, so sleep will increase the productivity of your leptin hormone. Ghrelin is the body's hunger hormone, and it's produced mainly in the stomach. It signals that the body is hungry, so it stimulates your appetite, and it will promote fat storage as well. Levels of this rise before we eat and when we're fasting. How have I spelled that there? Carbohydrates, not carbohydrates, and protein have been shown to restrict the production of ghrelin more than what fat does. So increasing that protein intake and your carbohydrate intake changes that production of ghrelin more than what fat does. And disturbed sleep increases your ghrelin levels. So you can all probably relate to this at some point. I know some of you more than others. I'm not pointing any elbows to anybody. When you don't sleep well, the next day you're always kind of craving food. You can't catch up with yourself. You're hungry all day. Disturbed sleep increases the ghrelin, increases the hunger hormones. So another reason that we want to make sure that we are getting your sleep in, okay? So why does your body change from your 30s? These are the reasons mainly that your body does change. Your sex hormone production naturally changes. We spoke about that with the estrogen, the progesterone, and the testosterone. Our bodies are just older. Like anything else, they age and prepare for the next stage, which is menopause, and then into postmenopause. Like your car. If your car's 10 years old, you need to get it serviced a bit more often. You're a wee bit easier on the clutch, or you need to pull up the handbrake a wee bit higher, something like that. Things, not that I'm saying that we are mechanical like cars, but when things age, we need to treat them a little bit differently. And that's us. Yeah. We also have a lot more stress in our lives in our 40s and 50s and 60s than we did in our 20s and early 30s. So when we have stress, that changes the narrative of everything. That overrides everything. So when you are affected by this, the hormones, without a doubt, yeah. So one thing is the stress. If you can change the stress, your stress response, implement things that are going to wind you down, then that's going to have such a positive impact, okay? We do love an action plan. We do. What can we do to minimize the effects of these changes? Because change is happening, you're not stopping it. But what can we do to minimize the intensity of it? Yeah. Eat well most of the time. These are all things that you all know, by the way. I'm just recouping them. So eat well most of the time. Have your takeaway at the weekend, have a few drinks, things like that. That's fine. But most of the time, be in control of what you're eating. Make good choices with what you're eating. Balance it out. Eat protein. Vital, vital, vital. And yeah, spend all the money you want on all your creams and all that type of thing, but protein is anti-aging. Just before we came on, somebody was saying about their skin being much better. Somebody was saying about their hair being much better. Water and protein has a massive effect on that. Yeah, so you will notice the difference. Make sure you are hydrated. Hydration is important for brain function, it's important for digestion, important for a detox pathway as well. Think of all those things lingering around in the body. Never mind your detox teas and detox 3-day juice cleanses. A lot of absolute poop, a lot of poop. All you need to do is drink water, sweat a little bit, and let your liver do the rest of it. Pee regularly. Eat fruits and vegetables. If you don't eat fruits and vegetables, somebody just posted about a superfoods greens blend. If you don't eat fruits and vegetables, then yes, have a green juice or something like that. You don't necessarily need to spend a lot of money on these things, and I don't believe there are such things as superfoods, because you couldn't live off, like people say chia seeds are superfoods, you couldn't live off that for the rest of your life. That's not very super, is it? You want it to, things that you would be able to eat off the rest of your life, which is pretty much nothing. So superfoods don't generally exist, but eating fruits and vegetables, very important. If you don't eat a lot of them, that's okay, but try to get them in some way. So whether that's in soups or smoothies or green drinks or whatever it is that you want. And what else we can do is give yourself that step target, moving your body regularly during the day. That's going to have a massive impact from your exercise and your NEAT or your habits webinars we've done. That's massive. Just moving your body. It's almost like it's a non-negotiable. And try not to think of it as you're a slave to the steps or you're a slave to your workouts. Choose stuff that you enjoy doing, and then it's going to be more enjoyable. Just because I say weight training is really effective, it is, but if you don't like weight training, then you're not going to progress at it. So don't do it. Yeah, do something that you enjoy. Weight training, with that testosterone, it increases that naturally. It's going to improve things like joint strength, joint stability, joint function, your soft tissue function. Weight just has such a positive impact on the body. And hopefully most of you are in the Lift Lean group for Lift Lean 12 now, and you'll be taking part in that as well, and you'll feel it. Mobility is very important, again, because of the effect of estrogen onto our ligaments and tendons. They can start to get a bit more stiff and more immobile as we age. And I say as we age, I mean, I think from about the age of 30 for me, I really noticed that when I didn't move my body, I really felt that. So making sure you're doing mobility stuff as well, very, very regularly. Um, these are de-stressing, a lot of these. So incorporate breath work, breathe every single day, not your natural breath, but sit and do a purposeful breath. So say I'm going to just take 3 minutes and do some breath work here. Breathe in for 4, breathe out for 4, breathe in for 3, hold for 3, breathe out for 4. Anything like that that's going to just incorporate a little bit of breath, because it works into that parasympathetic nervous system. Don't wait to be stressed before you do that. Use it as a preventative measure. Establishing a good bedtime routine, because when you have that wind down period, that's going to then continue through your night. Whereas if you just switch your TV off and go to bed, it's maybe not going to have that desired effect. So having that wind down routine is definitely going to help. Sleeping well, which again comes from a good bedtime routine. Poo regularly. Aim for that once per day, and doing that by eating fibre, making sure you're moving your body and you're drinking lots of fluid. Also, when you are doing a poo, when you're sitting on the toilet, make sure you're raising your feet up. So you've got like these little steps that like toddlers stand on to wash their hands, or turn 2 toilet rolls up on their sides. Sit with your feet lifted, because it's a much easier way to empty your bowels. Okay, so poo regularly and poo well. Practice gratitude. This is one of the things, 2 of my one-to-one clients have started to do this, and they are like blown away with it. They are like, I can't believe how much impact this is having on me, because it's a positive. When you bring more positive things into your world, that's going to grow, and it's going to be much more effective, rather than being a negative Nancy. Yeah, think about the positives all the time, and anything that's rubbish, anything that's crap, just try to see the good in it. So open up a wee bit here. Very personally to me, a couple of months ago, I got a diagnosis that I needed 2 of my kneecaps replaced. So I need to get 2 partial knee replacements. And I think it totally hit me. And I was knocked really a lot with it sideways. But what I thought I would do was, I'm like, right, let's look at the plus sides of this. So the plus side was that I focused more on particular types of classes as opposed to high impact stuff. It made me focus more on, and then bringing out my one-to-one coaching with people. And it's made me go into doing my life coaching course as well. So even when I was in a solo, I had to look and say, what's good, what's happening here, what is the good in here. And then I was like, gratitude for the NHS and stuff like that as well. And it turns it around. It really turns your life around when you're practicing gratitude. And it just write down 2 things you're thankful for every single night before you go to your bed. Start with doing that, and it makes a huge difference. Journaling as well. I'm going to do some guided journaling sessions. I'm going to do one, I think, next week for you. And it's just about answering a few questions. It's like when you were 14 and you were writing your diary. It's like that, journaling, and it really does make a huge difference. Practicing self-care, and that's going to be one full week for us. We're going to do a lot in self-care. All right, so these things all have an impact on reducing the effects of your change. All right, so if you've got good habits, you've got a good life. There we go. And thank you. let me stop sharing. Oh, I don't need that one, please. Thank you. There we go. How are we, everybody? So next time, I forgot to put that last slide in. The next one we are doing, which is going to take us into week 5, is all about mindset and self-care. That's going to be our week number 5. Now, whether we want a week break or whether we want a 2-week break, I'll have a wee chat with you in the Facebook group, and we can figure out what we want for that. All right. So how was that for everybody? You can unmute and let me know. Hi, June. I didn't see you at the start. How did that go for you guys? Nobody's talking to me. Jean, go on. Go on, Jean. Oh, you're muted, I think. Hold on. Yeah, you're muted. Or maybe that's why nobody's talking to me. You're all muted still.
I think with this one, I think I've done a couple of kind of webinars, so I feel this one I was quite on top of the
Good.
kind of hormones. So um, I think it's always good to get a refresher. But as I said earlier on the chat, I'm on HRT and I push for testosterone, and I can't believe the difference. I feel with taking the testosterone, as you say, it was a game changer for me.
Very
Total game
much so.
changer.
Yeah, and
So it just
it's like
shows
that
you
for a lot.
if you are lacking in these hormones, how it does affect you.
Yeah,
It's a big, big difference. So
good. That's good. A nice wee refresher for you tonight then, Jenny. Anyone else?
One thing I'd like to ask about that is then the complete opposite if you're not on HRT or anything.
And what do you mean?
As in no HRT, no contraception, no IUDs. So your hormones are doing as what they want to do.
Well, you've not got that aspect, so they won't be contributing to hormones changing. But like you remember that diagram with all the other things, so they can still be causing changes in hormones, like it was the refined diet, the stress, and what was the other one? Oh yeah, that was it. Refined sugars, diet, and stress. That just won't apply to you because you'll say, well, I'm not taking any type of hormonal medication, so that just won't apply to you.
Right, and does that include, you were saying there, the refined sugars?
So the refined sugars will have an impact on your overall hormones. Yeah. So that the diagram at the start with all the different colours on it. So you've got the causes of hormonal imbalance, and then you had the diet up at this side. Was it refined sugars at that side, and then stress at this side? And that was the one that had the contraceptive, the hormone mimickers, and childbirth as well. All those things all affect the hormone glands, which then affects if your hormones are produced or upregulated or downregulated.
How do you know? Okay, some things are obvious refined sugars, but there's obviously refined sugars that we maybe not know about that are kind of hidden.
Yep.
What kind of things would they be?
If you look at if it's like a packet, if you look at the ingredients list and you see sugar, then that's refined sugar that's been added into it.
Right.
Because that's been added as an ingredient. Whereas things like if you looked at a pack of oranges, it wouldn't say sugar on it because that's naturally occurring sugar, or like in fruit juice, it wouldn't have sugar added into it. Whereas any product, if you read and if you see sugar, so all the ingredients are listed in from highest content to lowest. So if sugar's within the first kind of 3 to 5 ingredients, it's pretty high in sugar.
Right, okay.
And that will be added sugar, which tends to be refined sugar.
The other thing you were saying about your liver, it kind of works overtime with all the different, you were saying like paracetamol or whatever. Does that include your vitamins and minerals too, or is that just medication?
No, still with your vitamins and minerals, it will as well, and that's why you want ones that are better quality, because then it's got a higher concentration and just better products in it, so that your liver's not having to kind of filter through any sort of, they put like bulking agents and stuff like that into them as well, so your liver's not having to kind of deal with that as well, or even like your gut having to deal with that, your intestines and stuff as well. So the better quality of the product that you use, then the less that your liver's going to have to work. But yeah, your liver will still have to process that as well.
Right, okay. No, I found tonight kind of really helpful, and I thought that diagram was really good too.
Yeah,
kind of working through it. So yeah, I enjoyed that.
Do you want me to put the diagram on the page?
Yeah, that would be good.
I'll put that. Was the coloured one with all the, yeah, I'll put that on. I'll put that on the page because it is, I love that, and some of you have seen that before with me, but it's really, it tells you, and apart from like aging, those are other things that affect hormones, so it's a really good one to to see. So I'll put that in the group.
Okay, thanks.
Good, no problem. Anyone else?
I think sort of like Jennifer, I think probably you know a lot of this, so it's good to know that you know it, and it's good to be able to like tick off. So I was like, yep, weight training, well I'm doing that 3 times a week, etc. But it's good to be reminded like, oh, you need to think about that again, or you need to go back and look at that again. So I already knew when I came here tonight that I needed to sort like my protein because I'm starving all the time. But it's interesting to think about, oh, this is the hormone that's causing you to be starving, and this is how you can, this is how you can sort it. So yeah, I think it's just a sort of a good reminder about how all of these things that we know would be good for us sort of interact as well. Like I also like to journal and do gratitude and do self-care and stuff like that. But I think what I'm going to do is it's sort of just being a wee reminder about all of those things will actually help you to not feel hungry.
Yeah.
So I think
definitely.
it's just a wee reminder that there's loads of things you do rather than just one thing, like about protein, you know what I mean? So I think I'm going to do all of these things sort of over the weekend, or put all of these things back into my routine again. And I know that this time next week, if you were to ask me again, I'll be like, oh yeah, I feel better, wasn't as hungry. So yeah,
definitely. And like, you'll be, as much as it's always quite good to take it back to basics again.
Totally.
And one of the things as well, I kind of said to Laura earlier on today when she put that post up, was that all, like, when you hydrate, or when you get your steps, or when you do weight training, or when you sleep better, it has such an impact on all of these things. So it's like you're doing one bird. What is it?
One stone, loads of birds.
Yes. So you're doing one thing, but it's having an impact on a lot of things as well. So as much as it's like, all right, I need to think about my bone health, my heart health, my breast health, my brain health, my joints, I need to think of all these things, but actually they're things that just cover all of that. So it's like putting, and I will summarize it when we're up towards the end, and I will just basically say, this is it, like this is what you need. And it's simple, but it's not easy because of all the things that impact us, or that we go through, or that temptations and our self-belief and things. And we'll do a bit on that when we do our self-care and mindset, we'll do quite a bit on that. And we're kind of programmed to think that it's like Laura was saying as well, that, oh, it's just rubbish, like this is all negative. And I'm like, if you think like that, it will be like that. So it's trying to shift that around, like I was saying about my knee, like trying to shift the focus on it and trying to make it as positive as you can, because then that's your outlook. And that will have a huge impact.
And I think like what you said about, if you just, when you feel better, that it's, it's easier to eat well, or it's, it's easier to get to the gym and stuff like that. So I know, like, this week I'm shattered and I'm starving, but going, and this is like obviously a massive difference from when you knew me like 5 years ago when I first came to do T21, is like exercise is a non-negotiable. Now it's just what I do. So I know that I will just feel better for 40 minutes in the gym. This week my pal's on holiday, and we go together and we work out together and we spot each other and all that sort of thing. And one recovers and whatever. And she's not here this week, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do any of that normal stuff because it's not the same without her. So I've booked like 3 classes this week instead. So it's you just mix it up. I know that, like, if I don't do it, it all falls to bits for me. You know what I mean? It all goes to shit if I'm not doing that. So I know that I'm still doing that, which is making me think, well, you know what, I want to eat better, or I don't want to be starving, because.
And that's it. Sometimes when you get it's a cycle,
one thing, right?
that it all affects each other. And once you break that cycle with one thing, sometimes that just impacts everything else, like getting to the gym or getting an exercise session. And then you're like, oh, I want to drink more water. Well, you kind of have to, because you're probably thirstier. And then you kind of want to eat a wee bit better, and it just stems from that. It's like the ripple effect. So if you start with one thing, and Kathy, you know that, so you're like, I know that when I've got my exercise like all in place, then everything else follows. And everybody will be the same. They'll be like, they'll know that once I've got that in place, everything else follows as well.
So I think if at any point I ever feel overwhelmed with, oh my God, I'm not quite sure I'll be able to do all of this, or I'm not quite sure I'll be able to fit all of this in this week, I think I'll just do one of these things, like do a meal plan, or get a gym session in or plan 3 gym sessions or whatever,
Yeah,
then it all sort of falls into place. So bigger picture, do one thing. That would
definitely. Because
be my
actually, to
anyway.
get from here to here, you don't just jump. You have to
No.
take all those steps to get there in the first place. So concentrating more on that rather than the final goal is important as well, because if you just look at that goal, have reminders of it, but if you're just looking at that, it becomes overwhelming. You think, I can't get there. But actually, if you think about the steps, taking one little step a day, what one thing can you do today to get closer to that goal? And if you think about that every day, then it'll start to build. Good stuff. Annette, what about you? Are you all right there?
Yeah, that was a refresher for me as
A
well,
good
Pam.
refresher, yeah.
And it kind of brought some things to light when I was thinking of the ghrelin one, the hungry hormone, because sometimes I wake up at night, I feel hungry. So, and I don't know if a couple of weeks ago I wasn't eating enough or snacking, I think rubbish. So this week's been better because I've upped my protein and now I'm waking up and I do waking up, I'm just been doing my breathing and I just fall asleep again.
That's good. That's good, because you were having problems with that before, weren't you?
Yeah, and I think like that, my hormones, because for me, I was on HRT and I came off that.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
So that was just at lockdown I came off, because the doctor at the time had said, well, I'd been on it maybe 6 years and maybe it was like more risk to be, or it was, the benefits weren't going to help. So I came off it and I thought coming off it, I'd just go back to being normal. But I feel as if I'm going through bits of menopause, just bits, like the flushes a wee bit. It's controlled a wee bit better, but I need to watch my diet and drinking. Honestly, I think since I've been doing all your coaching and all your lessons, water's just natural to me now. So that really, really helps me, water. When I feel the flush, I just go and drag something. So it does.
Good.
It does
glad. I'm glad. What about you, June? You all right? That would be a refresher for you as well, won't it?
Yeah, it's good to rethink about things, but things that you maybe forgot about.
Sometimes when you redo it and you do it at a different time, it just hits you a little bit differently. When you're at a different time, a different place, or you've been through something and you're like, oh yeah, it just lands a bit different in your mind sometimes. So always that is quite good to do that. Good. What about Melanie? Are you there still?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Was that helpful for you? You've done that with me before as well, haven't you?
Yeah, and I really liked that diagram. So yeah, if we can.
Yeah, I'll put that up. I'll put that up tonight.
It's just putting it all together. I think sometimes, and as you're saying, it's sometimes when you listen to it again in a different way, and it just suddenly clicks. So I know stress is a huge thing for me, but when you see a diagram like that, you think, actually that impacts in so many different areas. So
yeah, definitely. Well, it's so many different areas. So I'll put that up. I will put that up.
Thanks.
Good. And it was a Think Dirty app. That's right. Thank you, Annette, for bringing that to our attention. I kept forgetting.
I remember you told me before it was on my phone. Can I just ask one wee thing? What is the journaling? Is that like writing a story?
Journaling is like it's almost like writing in a diary about how you're feeling about things and stuff. So I'm going to do a wee guided session on that next week, so I'll post it up for you and you can come and do that. I'll give you a wee bit more info on it.
Right, that's brilliant. Okay, I like to hear. And last week I did sleep stories, so I'm learning something
there you go, every time.
Thank you.
Right, thank you so much, ladies. I'll get this up and I'll post up the slides for you as well into the group tomorrow. Okay.
Okay. Right. Thank
you.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.